So I have the absolute honor, absolute pleasure to invite Shannon Dunn all the way from New Zealand with us. Shannon has a very unique story, and I can start off by saying my wife Philippa was, she stumbled upon Shannon's work very, very early on in her journey, and I remember she telling me that there's a woman I just realized, I met or I've discovered that has reverse prolapse mainly through the power of her mind, and that sort of completely opened her perspective and opened my perspective on what's possible and what we are not taught. So Shannon, today's session is going to be really inspiring for me and for the countless women that are listening to this. And obviously, you're going to be part of our book, Super Healers, and your story is such an important part of our book. So I'm really excited to welcome you. How are you, Shannon?
Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here talking to you. And I know Philippa's journey and I know her story well. And again, it's an absolute honor to have played a part in that. And that was all that I really wanted to do when I set about helping other women, was to just share my message and hope that it inspired women to then understand how powerful they are. So I knew shortly after I was diagnosed that it was not that I knew, but I had the resolve in me to know that I would heal. And so I always had that intention that when I did heal, that I would help other women. And that has come through my Facebook group primarily. And I have put a couple of books out in my time, which aren't available at the moment because I'm re-releasing everything as a trilogy. Which will come this probably towards the end of this year, and then there'll be the main book, which has been coming out for years, which takes, because it's, such a life's work, putting it into this book. So that'll be next year. But yeah, it's an honor. Thank you.
Beautiful. Tell us a little bit about the books, and obviously tell us a little bit about your journey, if to get started with that.
Yeah. Sure. So the first book that I brought out was actually an affirmations book, to really help women understand that it is their power of their mind and their intention that can affect them on a cellular level. And so, repeating these affirmations women with prolapse, they're scared. They don't have support generally. So this book was really a way to be the woman's best friend, really, and for her to start giving herself positive talk amidst the absolute fear and terror that they're in when they have prolapse. So I'm re-releasing that, and I've put in more affirmations, and there's some more aspects to the book which helps women integrate the affirmations more. So and the next one, the main question that I'm always asked in the Facebook group is where do I start? And so I thought, well, I need to put a book together that just gives women that foundational information of, like, they've just been diagnosed or they're self-diagnosed and like petrified, and it's a book that's like, okay, I can start here, I can pick out this, and this, and that feels right for me, and I've got some guidance, because that's something I didn't have. I had no. When I was diagnosed, there was not one person online saying they had healed it. Well, I say except one that I took a long time to find in the back pages of Google. A woman in Sedona had been to see a healer and had healed. And that's all I needed at that time, was just one woman to say that she had healed, and I knew it was possible. So that kind of sparked my journey, just like Philippa found me. I had found this other woman. But until then, there were no prolapse groups supporting holistic healing or another way. I joined, I think there were like 2 prolapse groups at the time, and the main one I was kicked out of because I asked questions regarding holistic healing and, wanting to know more about what could be done to heal. And I was kicked out, which I was like, that's so... it doesn't make sense to me. So I thought about it, and I thought, well, I'll start my own group and just share my story. And that's how it's kind of happened. That was probably, I'm not sure, it's probably about 5 years ago or something now that I started the group. So I've been healed for quite a few years now.
Beautiful. But Shannon, is it true? So you discovered the symptoms that you had, and when the realization that you had was that you could regain yourself largely, primarily through the power of your mind. How did that
Yeah,
insight
so
start?
okay, so I gave birth to my daughter in 2012. I didn't know anything about looking after myself post-birth. I just didn't know anything. I didn't have family support because my family were living away from where I was. And I remember I was a freelance journalist at the time, and I'd been home from the hospital for probably a week, and then I was sitting at the kitchen table writing a 5,000 word feature for a magazine, and that's, stress and not there looking after myself and doing the things that I should have done. And so 3 months after, I went for a walk with my baby in a carrier, and went for a walk for about an hour, came home and literally felt my uterus drop to the opening of my vagina. And I'd never heard of such a thing. And it was absolutely terrifying. And I grabbed a mirror. It was the only time I'd ever grabbed a mirror, because I refused to look ever again, because I didn't want to fixate on the physical, what was, because I knew if I had to change it, I shouldn't focus on that. And I say in my book, it felt like my brain had descended, because that's what it looked like to me. It was just horrific. And I came out and I said to my husband at the time, oh my God, I don't know what's happened. Something's wrong. And so I rang emergency line, and they said, you better get to the hospital as soon as possible. So we went with my daughter, who was 3 months old. We waited for 3 to 4 hours to be seen by a doctor. She lay me on a table and she said, oh, it's just prolapse. That's common. There's nothing you can do about it. You can have it sewn up once you finish having kids. End of story. See you later. And I was just absolutely, like, couldn't believe it, that it was common and no one had talked about it. I'd never heard of it. So, obviously I went home and began copious amounts of research. And from there, I did the whole Kegels thing first. That was what you find online. When you go online, it's like, you must do Kegels, and that's what I did. And, I soon realized it made the symptoms worse for me. So I had to look elsewhere, and I guess I tuned into what my body was telling me, and it wasn't a physical thing that I needed to focus on. So it was more, for me, I started with my chakras. I went and saw an energy practitioner, and she worked on my chakras, and from there it kind of led me to the nutritional side and to this practitioner and that practitioner and more of my own self-work. And I will backtrack a little bit, because I did go and see a Mayan massage therapist before this, and she had told me I had a particularly bad case, because it was literally, I say it's a grade 2, but it was a bad grade 2. And she said I had a particularly bad case, and she also said there was nothing that I could do. And then having that done so early in the piece made it worse as well, because I was, she's physically manipulating something that was already weakened. So yeah, from there I went and I contacted a healer in South Africa who made chakra elixirs, Marcus, who I'm still friends with today. And yeah, I started using the chakra elixirs, and then my journey
Wow.
just, went on from there. And but it wasn't all, I didn't just do this and this and I was healed. It was like this,
No. Yeah.
it was like things are, I see movement and things are changing, and then one day it'd all just feel like it was back to where I started. But I knew, because I'd experienced some change in my symptoms, I knew I was on the right track, and I knew my body could heal.
Wow. But that insight, was that insight something you already had, that the body with the right support can get better, or was that insight that you had to cultivate during the darkest times?
Well, I've always, for a long time, had a love of holistic healing, and I did my Reiki levels prior to this. In 2008, while I was living in America, I decided to change my journalism focus on holistic healing and natural therapies and natural beauty. And so from that point forward, it was all about the holistic approach. So I was already there. But throw prolapse into the mix, and it's such a, especially when you've never heard of it, and it's such a physical thing, you just, in that fight or flight state that you're in, you will go and look at what everyone else is doing, and that is Kegels. And, the thing is with Kegels is that, you want to, I'm just talking about a uterus, for example. Kegels may strengthen your pelvic floor, but it's not going to pull the organ back up. So it cannot actually cure or heal a prolapse.
But Shannon, I'm still curious. So you're sitting there the darkest hour of your life, possibly, and you're having people, trusted authorities, tell you that, this is it. There's not much you can do. You come home. Where do you find the courage? Where do you find the agency? That's where did it? I mean, how did you get started with that agency? Because there are a lot of women out there listening to us right now, with all the resources that we have today compared to 12 years ago when you had it, still feeling that they need more agency. So I'm curious to really, if you can really take us through, where you found that empowered self in you to go forward.
Yeah. Sure. It was that terrifying for me. And, I get emotional when I think back to it and put myself back in that place, because it was so absolutely deeply horrific and terrifying. And to see that no one had any answers, I just knew that I couldn't stay in that state for the rest of my life. I refused to stay in that state for the rest of my life. And, I did know about myself that I didn't have, self-love, enough self-love. With most women, we berate ourselves all the time. We don't like what we see in the mirror. So I grew up like that, feeling very self-conscious. And so that creates over time an energetic state. And so I knew deep within my heart and soul that there was so many other aspects to this for me. And this was very early on, I recognized it in the middle of my pain. I recognized it as a blessing, because I knew that this was sent to me as a gift to work through so I could become more fully myself and love myself and own myself. And so I guess that was the fuel. And I just refused. I just knew that the human body is not, it's not meant to be that way. So, and I know that, like, when you scratch your arm or you break a bone, the body's always working in your favor. It's always moving towards equilibrium if you give it the right support. So I just knew if I kept giving myself the right support, and sometimes I went to the wrong practitioner and that wasn't right, and then I had to pivot this way. And, it was, how many years did it take me to heal? Over 4 years to heal. So it certainly wasn't all straight lines, but I just refused to stay those symptoms.
Wow. Where are you today? How do you, when you think about your pelvic floor and when you think about symptoms, where are you today?
Yeah, it's non-existent, because I did all the work. Like, I can, do everything I could do pre-prolapse. It's not even I know, because I've done the work, it's not even I'm like, oh, could it come back? Could it, it's not, I'm not in that state at all, because I've done the work.
Oh, wow.
And it's been probably like 8 years. And also I wanted to, there's a 4-year gap between a 5-year gap between my daughter and my son. And that was deliberate, because I wanted to heal prolapse before I tried for another baby. And so when I knew that I'd healed, I knew it was okay to try for another baby. And he was a very big baby. And I gave birth in an hour. It was very intense. But because I'd learnt everything that I had beforehand and applied all the principles post-birth, even after having a big baby in a fast labor, I didn't have prolapse after.
Wow. This is such an inspiring story, right? I mean, you have you've walked the path, and you're really showing the way to millions of women out there, saying that your body with the right support can indeed restore and regain. There's a new scientific word for it, Shannon, now. It's called homeostasis. Uh, and
Aha.
homeostasis is the concept of, there's a lot of new science that's showing exactly what you're talking about, which is the cells in your body want to achieve equilibrium. And if you provide the right
Yes.
support, the right conditions, you'll get there. And it's called homeostasis. You should check it out. You've lived homeostasis, so I
Yeah.
think they should write a book on you about it, actually. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but take us through a little bit of the strategies you used, things that worked for you and
Mhm.
things that were less effective for you.
Yep.
And just walk us through your toolbox.
Yeah, sure. So, it can, I want to say, like, for any woman, it's not necessarily looking at what another woman has done for their own selves. It's about looking at what a woman has done and going, does that feel like a fit for me? Because every woman's story is different. And just because, let me just think, chakras and the chakra work for me, it might not work for another woman because that's not what she needs.
Oh,
So that's why when there's programs out there that say you need to pay X amount of dollars and you're guaranteed to heal at the end of this, I have to question it because we're not all the same woman.
no.
So for me, I did, like I said, I did the chakras. I did the Mayan massage, which didn't work for me, but I'm not saying it doesn't work. I just did it at a stage that wasn't right for me. I did nutritional work. I did kinesiology. I did a lot of meditation, guided meditation. I did Evox. I did, I did a lot of things. Homeopathy was amazing for me. Homeopathy was probably, I came to homeopathy about 3 years in, and I'd come a long, long, long way. Homeopathy just got me over that last little bit that symptoms would come back around my period, that kind of thing. And it got me over the line at the end. And has been amazing ever since. So I do highly recommend homeopathy because it can be tailored to the individual woman and her specific circumstances. So I would look at a remedy that I use because that's a remedy specific for me. So you'd want
For
to see
you,
a
yeah.
trained homeopath. Yep, for sure.
Well, walk us
So
through a couple of those terms. What was Evox? That's something at least I've not personally heard of. And
Evox
kinesiology.
is so Evox, let me try and explain it to the best of my ability. So it uses a hand cradle that measures your galvanic skin response. It's quite detailed. It's a computer program, and the practitioner asks you a series of questions, and she can see through your voice what it relates to. It could be ancestry, it could be anything. And so she talks you through that, and then you have to close your eyes while she plays music, and you're picturing what it is that she says to picture, and it helps to rewire the brain. Basically, it's quite profound. It's
Wow.
really powerful. Really incredible. Kinesiology is basically the body talking to you. So your own body talking to the practitioner, saying this is what's out of place, this is what's needed. Kinesiology is still my go-to today, and I made it a thing that I had to learn to muscle test myself. So I muscle test myself all the time. I teach my kids how to muscle test. They now muscle test themselves to know if they need a particular supplement or whatever. So for any woman out there, that's one of the main tools I'd recommend that they learn is muscle testing, which is used in applied kinesiology.
And these are things that you could learn yourself in self-practice. Is that what you did? So you sort of met a practitioner, learned, and then self-practiced
Absolutely.
along the way?
Yeah. Well, you can learn to muscle test from a video on YouTube. It's actually that quick, and it's just it's a process of trust what you're getting is right, and then the longer that you do it, the more attuned you become. So if I go to muscle test now, I get the answer before I even do the muscle testing. So yeah, it's quite interesting. A wonderful tool. And
Wow.
I forgot to mention EFT too is really powerful, emotional
Tapping.
techniques.
Yeah. Yeah. Tapping is great.
Yeah,
We love it here.
yeah,
Yeah, we love it
yeah.
here.
So I did that a lot.
But how did you find motivation, Shannon? I mean, you're sitting there, you're starting to find all these different therapies that are calling you and appealing to you, and you try them. But how do you stay consistent? How do you find
Mm.
motivation?
I think every day is different, and you draw on what you have in any particular day because, you know, I remember one day having lunch, a work lunch, and having to walk back to the car with my work colleagues and feeling like it was so scary, feeling like my uterus was going to hit the ground. And so in days like that, how do you find motivation? For me, that was going home. At the time, there was like a hill in the backyard. It was like an incline. So I would lie with my head down this way, my feet up that way, and I would lie there and I'd put my hands on my womb and I would breathe and I would have that moment of reprieve from not feeling the symptoms and grounding myself. And that was, one of my go-to tools to take me out of that scared state to that everything's going to be okay state.
Mm, mm. And did you have like a consistent
Mm.
practice that you kept, for instance, you were doing the guided meditations on a Monday and then you had the muscle testing on a Tuesday, and did you have things like that, or was it more somatic? You just felt what you had to do and you did that?
Very intuitive. Very intuitive, and that's the key to working with the body. The body needs, what you need 5 minutes before might be different to what you need 5 minutes later.
Mm,
So it's really, if I was to say to women, the most important thing to be consistent at is going within and learning to listen to your body.
mm,
That is the main thing. Um,
mm.
so so yeah.
How do you, for somebody who understands the words that you just said, learning to listen to your body, but doesn't know how to apply it, where
Mm.
should they start, or where could they start, and what does that look like?
Yep, stop being busy. Stop covering up the discomfort with adding more to your plate, adding more to, I've got to do this and that, and I'm going to start this project. And that's been my biggest learning is I would always make myself really, really busy.
Mm,
Sorry, I'm just moving messages off it. I would make myself really busy to stop having to deal with what's going on here. So
mm,
that is, I guess, the best advice I can give. Stop making things to do and take the time to actually sit down
mm,
with yourself. And it doesn't have to, I'm not great at silent meditation. I've never been good at it. I love guided
mm,
meditations, but it could be just journaling and asking like question, why do I feel like crap? Why is this symptom here?
mm,
And super important to ask questions every single day, like out loud. What would it take for me to feel better today? Um,
mm, mm,
anything that you can think of, ask and you shall receive.
mm. Interesting. Philippa had a rule in our house very early on that I'm not going to say your prolapse to her because she was like, it's on my prolapse to keep.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
what do you think when somebody when I tell this to my guy friends, obviously they don't get it, a lot of them. What do you say to skeptics out there saying this is all woo woo, this is all in your head. Obviously the science is catching up,
Um,
but yeah, but what's sort of your feeling
there's
of
there's always
people.
going to be that. There's
Mm,
always going to be that. And
mm,
it really doesn't matter. It's just noise because you either want to heal or you want to like make people that don't really matter happy, like by saying, oh yeah, you're right, that doesn't work. Uh, you just, uh, there's so much we don't know.
mm,
And I think we are so much more powerful than we've been told. And
mm,
modern healthcare, I mean, it's fantastic for emergencies and, I absolutely honor the modern healthcare system, but when it comes to things like prolapse and everyday health, it's vital to look elsewhere. It's important to look elsewhere, and you know, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks, and that can be one of the practices that every woman could really focus on, is not caring anything about what anyone thinks, because it doesn't really matter.
Especially if it comes from an authority like a doctor or like a physiotherapist, or
Yeah.
and
Yeah, absolutely.
I work a lot with the customer support at Moonrise and look at the questions that we get. And one of the most common questions and common things people ask is, can I get better? And when can I get better? How do you look upon those two questions, Shannon, given your journey in going through this?
Well, that's a symptom of the modern healthcare system, because you've got a headache, you take a pill, you've got this, you take a pill, and then it goes away and you can get back to the busy. So there's no, I say to women, it took me 4 years, it might take them 4 months, might take someone 4 weeks, might take someone 4 days. There's no hard and fast rule, because every woman's different, and there are now more tools and more support than I had when I started. I had nothing, and so women are steps ahead because they have so much more information. But on the other hand, it can be too much information, too overwhelming. They don't know where to start, and it's prolapse is it's unique in a way when it comes to where to start and how to work with it, and quick fix. And I think any woman who has had it and healed will be able to say the same thing. There's no quick fix. There's no quick fix. But I said it depends on the woman and what path she follows, and if it is aligned with what her body needs in that moment, maybe it will be a quick fix for her. But generally speaking, it takes stamina and it takes resolve to heal it.
Beautiful, Shannon. I'm very conscious of your time. Do you have any final words before we end the interview?
I think it's just really important that women understand that they are powerful, and that they don't have to listen to people who say what isn't possible. If you believe in your heart and soul that you can do it, if you don't want to live with those symptoms, you don't have to. There's always avenues to follow, and it's definitely worth following different paths to try different things than just accepting it's not possible.
Beautiful. Shannon, where can people find you and your work and your books?
Yeah, sure. My website is my name, so shannondunn.com. So everything is on there, and the Facebook group is Prolapse Holistic Healing. Yeah.
Prolapse Holistic Healing is the Facebook group. Anybody that's watching this that wants to go deeper in Shannon's world, Prolapse Holistic Healing on Facebook and shannondunn.com. Shannon, it's been an absolute honor. I'm really excited to feature your story in our upcoming book as well. And thanks for all the amazing work you've done on yourself and now inspiring thousands of women out there. Thank you so much, Shannon.
Well, thanks for having me, Mahesh. I appreciate it.
Right. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.